Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and we have got a treat for all of you listeners here today because we are joined by an incredible entrepreneur that I think epitomizes pretty much everything that it means to be an entrepreneur. From the successes to the setbacks to the challenges to life getting in the way, so many things that are going to leave us feeling all sorts of fired up, encouraged, and inspired by today's guest. Let me tell you all about him. His name is Andrew Spira. Andrew is an entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and recovered drug addict. Yes, there's so much to his story that this is someone who's so generous and transparent in the way he shares it. So we're going to learn a lot from him today. His life story is a compelling tale of transformation and redemption. At 25, inspired by his own struggles with addiction, Andrew turned his life around, becoming a seasoned real estate investor, developer, and business mogul. Spira's life took a dramatic turn when he realized the detrimental impact of drugs on his own life and so many communities across the globe. Today, Andrew oversees investments in residential real estate, finance, and a reputation management company, among other business ventures. This is someone with a brilliant strategic business mind that really has such a keen eye for growth and opportunities. Andrew is a powerful advocate against drugs, actively working to prevent others from falling into the recurring cycle of addiction. His story serves as a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit and the potential for change, as well as all the ingredients that come with being an entrepreneur. Resilience, hard work, consistency, determination. I'm excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Andrew Spira. All right, Andrew, you've got a lot to live up to today, but first things first, officially welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you.
Heck yeah, it's so great for you to be here. I'm super excited personally to hear your story and all the insights that you've picked up along the way, which I know are abundant. But first things first, take us beyond the bio. Who's Andrew? How'd you start transforming your life and then also doing all these incredible things within the world of business?
Yeah, okay. So Andrew is a male, obviously, who grew up in Sydney, particularly around the eastern suburbs. Many people would know the eastern suburbs. If you don't, it's close to the Bondi Beach area of Sydney. Started off at a young age. I lived in a normal family setting. Unfortunately, my dad, he lost all his money when I was quite young, and my mum subsequently ended up leaving him. And I think, that my parents getting divorced at a young age, that had a bit of an impact on me. It was a fairly nasty divorce. And then going forward, my mum had her own struggles with addiction. I was introduced to drugs at a fairly young age, 13, 14, and I ended up becoming a drug addict when I was 14. Ended up actually on the street. I know a lot of people say on the street, but on the street is a big thing. It's not easy. It's walking up and down King's Cross, trying to sleep at the hospital if you can, trying to sleep at a hotel if you've got a couple $100 on you. Ended up on the street for a couple of years. Ended up getting into some trouble when I was 17, which gave me a bit of a shock to the system, got clean. And then at the age of 18, I started my own business in the loan space, particularly around broking business loans. And I was one of the fortunate people that my business really took off during COVID. Managed to acquire a lot of real estate during that period. I bought some, very special properties around the eastern suburbs of Sydney. At the moment, currently running a group of fintech businesses in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. We're doing SME micro lending. So that's kind of my forte, SME micro lending. And also, I've launched a charity, andrewspira.me, which is just giving back to vulnerable men and women around Sydney and globally who are suffering with addiction and who are suffering with getting their life on track, and also just the basic essences of life, like getting a job or applying for a rental. You'd be surprised how much that helps someone, like giving them the confidence that they can go and get a job, or they can go and get a rental, property and live on their own and get out of the environments they're in.
Yeah, I really love and appreciate that overview, Andrew. It's so clear that not only do you have your hands in so many incredible projects and business ventures that make the world a better place, that we're definitely going to get into all of those. But what I really appreciate about your story is how you truly start at the beginning. It starts in childhood for you, and you talking about the impact that your parents getting divorced and obviously your mom's own challenges that you then went on to experience yourself. And what I find fascinating in having these conversations with amazing entrepreneurs and business minds like you is that we see the world a bit differently. Entrepreneurs, we're a bit of a different breed. I'm curious where along the way, because you did start your business at an extraordinarily young age as a teenager, where along the way did you realize, you know what, I've had this life and my circumstances are whatever they've shaken out to be, but I don't believe that we should live the way that the world traditionally trains us, of working for 40 years, retiring, working for the man or the system. When did you realize you think differently and see the world differently?
Look, that's a good question. There's a textbook moment. I'm 16. I just bought a heap of iPhones, cheap, and I'd resold them. I think I made like $3,000, and I'm sitting at the Cosmopolitan, 16 years old. I'm sitting at the Cosmopolitan in Double Bay. I just ordered a glass of wine. I just ordered a schnitzel, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have an interesting life here. Like I was 16 years old on the street. And I was already started, I was hustling and whatever I could, stuff off Gumtree, stuff off eBay, and just trying to make a profit out of it. So there was a pivotal moment. I remember just sitting there staring straight ahead, and I thought, this is not normal for a 16-year-old. I'm going to have an interesting life. So that was a pivotal moment for me.
I love that, especially that really tangible story that you can probably still feel to this day. You immediately thought of it. I want to ask you this, because I remember years ago I spoke at an event in Eastern Europe, and one of the people in the audience, she asked me, she's like, well, Brian, I want to start my business, but I'm a mom and that's holding me back. And I remember sharing with her my perspective. I come from an immigrant family here in the States of, well, you can succeed or you can not succeed because of the fact that you have kids, or you can succeed because of the fact that you have kids. How do you flesh out the life circumstances that were handed to you? Did those become your advantage, Andrew? Were they a setback that you had to first recover from and get over? Talk to us about your attitude there.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to respond to that. I think I've always been a very spiritual and religious person, and I do believe in what you put out is what you get. And I'm a big believer in God. So and also not overcomplicating life. So I truly believe that if you put all your effort into something, God will not stop you from being successful in running a business. He will not let you go. Most people's, let's go back a step. Most people's biggest fears are, what happens if I run out of money? I truly believe you will not run out of money as long as you are doing the right thing and putting all your effort into your business. It just won't happen.
Yeah, amen to that. I absolutely love that, because I think it's so key for all of us. Faith, it's the key word behind religion, behind spirituality, behind a lot of things, is having that faith. And especially when it comes to business, we can't see these things until we actually achieve them. We have to have that faith in order to get there, which leads me to ask you this question, Andrew, because as I research all of the great things that you're up to, part of me really wants to get inside your head to understand identity and how that has shaped for you along the years, because obviously having that label of a drug addict, whether you sat with that label or not, obviously it's part of your story and part of your past. Where did that label go? What did you do with it when you started that first business? So many people get held back of saying, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a business owner, so people won't take me seriously. You blasted through that. Talk to us about the role of identity in your journey.
Yeah, look, this is a little bit sad answer to this question. I was a bit traumatized. I still am. I think that's why I have been able to be so successful. Those rough years between 15 and 17, they've definitely shaped my life. No matter how much therapy I do or any progression I make, I'm always referring back to that time in my head. Even if I'm not speaking about it out loud, I'm thinking about, being on the street or scrounging around for, a bed somewhere. And I just don't ever want to go back to that. So that's what drives me. In terms of the label of an addict, I was young. I was a drug addict from 14 to 17, and I got clean for 5 years, from 18 to 23 or thereabouts. And I thought I'd grown up, and unfortunately I relapsed in 2022, and I was 23 years old at the time. And, I think all that stuff I was suppressing, I hadn't dealt with it. I was clean. I wasn't doing so well. I was making lots of money in my business, really good money, like, a few million a year doing not much work at the time. And I relapsed, and, getting clean from that relapse, I ended up spending 18 months on drugs every day. And getting clean from that relapse has, I think, shaped me into a man and made me into the person I am now. I think over the last 12 months, I've become a bit more of a grown up. I've turned into a man. My body's definitely gone through some changes. And I think, I've outgrown the drugs, and I've dealt with a lot of my previous issues, which I think is quite common for people who have been through traumatic situations, that they tend to get over it between the ages of 25 to 30 or grow out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the perspective on that, especially I know a lot of listeners' ears are going to perk up. We've got entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs all across the world at different stages in their journey, and hearing, making millions of dollars a year, that they imagine that that's going to solve all the problems for us. But along the way, they get obsessed with looking for that secret pill, the magic pill that's going to give them the strategy or the tactic that's going to take them there. I want to ask you about that business education, because obviously it's something that you have your hands in a lot of successful businesses these days. You've got a whole portfolio of them. You obviously went to the School of Hard Rocks. You've mentioned the streets a few times. Where did this education come from? The actual business acumen, where did you start picking that up along the way?
That's I'm going to answer this like everyone on that podcast answers it. I was just doing what I can to hustle from a young age, and I truly do fall into that category. Because I was so desperate, and I wanted to escape the environment I was in when I was an early teen and mid-teen years. I was just trying to make money however way I could. So, if I was buying and selling phones, if I was buying, pre-workout supplements and selling it to kids, like it was, I was a kid as well. It was all types of anything I could make money out, I could. And I think that's sort of, it gave me exposure to older people, I guess, at a young age, outside of the school environment. And I think that made me mature early, and also gave me some basic fundamental principles to apply to business. Business isn't, people overcomplicate it. And, what I'm realizing, particularly these days, I'm exposed to a lot more wealthy people these days. Most of them are getting rich out of a very simple process. 99% of them, you don't overcomplicate it. Just stick to the basic principles. That's what I will say.
Yeah, I want to go deeper there because it's my favorite Albert Einstein quote. If you want to impress someone, make it complicated. If you want to help someone, make it simple. And Andrew, I think it's so clear in all the things that you do and all the ways that you show up in service to others is that you love making it simple. So let's talk about some of those principles, because one of the founding things behind this podcast many years ago was I always wanted to rip my hair out at the newer entrepreneurs who obsess about their logo, their website, if they're using WordPress or Squarespace. Obviously, none of these things are the keys to success. Andrew, what are some of those? If we strip away everything, what are some of those core principles that have helped you launch into all the things you do?
Well, again, I'm going to give you the answer everyone tends to give on this. It's sales and marketing. And I think that's what I'm really good at. I'm really good at particularly marketing and getting direct sales. That's what I'm good at. The biggest thing, when you're working with someone is trust. If you breach someone's trust, as far as I'm concerned, the relationship's over. So always make sure you're solid. Stick to your agreements. If you can't stick to an agreement, let someone know straight away and try and negotiate some sort of compromise. That's a big thing that I've learned to do the last couple of years. If I've got an issue, I'm upfront about it. Can I sit down with you? Can I have a meeting? Can we discuss it? Most people are reasonable. If they're not reasonable, don't deal with them anyway. So, it's being trustworthy, being honest, and, sales and marketing. And the big thing is just momentum, like mindset, forward. Don't focus on a logo. Don't worry about this logo and that logo, because the logo doesn't make any difference. Everyone is so busy. Everyone is so stuck in their own heads, particularly these days with iPhones. Just focus on mindset, getting sales, and pushing forward, pushing past the problems.
Yeah, listeners, you heard it not from me, but from Andrew here in today's episode. So, Andrew, I appreciate those direct words of wisdom and encouragement and action to our listeners. I want to ask you about the role that you talk about sales, but what I really like about that last answer is how you went straight to trust. And in your industry, obviously, when we're talking about finance and investments, trust is incredibly important, especially micro lending is a fascinating world to me. Talk to me about how the finance world is really where you found yourself with the bulk of so much of your work and so much of your investment portfolio. What is it about finance?
It's not even finance. These days, after, having to rebuild myself, I just specialize in one particular area. I'll say what it is. It's unsecured business loans from 2 to 100K. That's all I do now. And, I think this space is my personality in a nutshell. It's fast paced. It's high stress, high pressure, lots of fun. You're still helping people, which is good. I still get like 1 million Christmas cards and hampers and everything every year. But it's quite, it's still a little bit, it's got a little bit of spice to it. So I like finance. I've been involved in other projects like neobanks. They're just money burners. Some FX trading websites. I got offered work there. But now after diversifying a lot and it ruining my core business, I really just focus on that unsecured business loan space.
Yeah, well then I've got to ask you this, because every entrepreneur has heard the phrase cash is king, but a lot of them may not be familiar with unsecured business loans. So take us there, Andrew. Be our guide into this wonderful new world of this.
Yeah. So unsecured business loan, or merchant cash advance, as you would call them in the US, has been around since 2008. There was a guy he's based in New York, who started doing it during the GFC, and then post that, it's just been a big feature in all lending in pretty much every Commonwealth country throughout the world. So, I got a job when I was 17 doing cold calling for an unsecured business loan lender, and I thought, as soon as I got on the phone, I'm like, crap, you can make money out of this. I'm going to do this. This is great. And bang, never looked back. I've only ever done that.
I love that. So tell us what that looks like, because obviously for a lot of entrepreneurs, getting access to those resources is incredibly crucial. It is, as you said, that's the huge opportunity for us to make money in that area. Talk to us about what the mechanics are, how it works. For a lot of people, this is the academic understanding that they're lacking.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the logistics of the business, we're generally, and I lend 2 from 100K from 3 to 12 months. And I'm typically lending behind a bank lender. So if you've got a first position bank lender, we'll lend second position behind that at a slightly higher rate. And it's great for bridging finance. People that are in the process of refinancing out all their debts into a wholesale facility, or it's great for someone who might have no cash in the account for whatever reason. We've all been there, and needs to pay wages that day. It might be for someone who's got an inventory opportunity, like to buy inventory at half price, and they need money now. It's someone who needs cash straight away, and we're there to, I guess, fill that gap.
Yeah, I love that, especially because talking to you about this stuff is fun for me, because I know that you believe firmly in the power of cash, because you and I were talking off the air about real estate. That's an area that is of keen interest to you. Talk to us about leverage, because I feel like it's scary for so many different entrepreneurs. Obviously, you help all of your clients. The word you use there that I really appreciate is the bridge. It is that access to resources is that bridge to whatever growth opportunities they're actively seeking. Talk to us about cash leverage and directly address for all the listeners worldwide who are thinking, Andrew, this stuff can be scary.
Yeah, look, leverage is great. Use it. People are mixed. Like I see like the Dave Ramseys of the world, they're like, don't use leverage. And then there's other guys that say use leverage. Look, everyone is different. I started out thinking make the money, Grant Cardone style, put everything into real estate and get cash flow. Now that doesn't work for me, because I'm a fast guy. I need results straight away. So, these days I leverage my business. So everyone who offers me money, I take that money and I lend it out in my business in these merchant cash advance loans. And that's what works for me. But a lot of people aren't as fast paced as me. In fact, I'd say 99% of people aren't as fast paced as me. So that's where I think real estate's a great tool. Putting your money, parking into something that builds in equity, and gives you some rental return. In terms of leverage, back to the question of leverage, it's a great tool. If you can just remember, a lot of people can't get debt for whatever reason. So if you've got someone who's offering you leverage, take it with both hands and use it. Even if you don't do so well, generally most of the time with these mortgages, you've got to put 20 or 30% down anyway. So you can wait it out. You'll have enough. If there's a trough, you can just wait it out, and your equity will eventually rebuild. It's just time.
Yeah, I'm glad you called out. I agree with you fully that Dave Ramsey is the opposite end of this spectrum. And for a lot of people he's one of the mainstream voices. Unfortunately, that's one of the voices that we hear the most in the world of podcasting, the radio, TV shows, online content. So, Andrew, I'm going to leverage your expertise here to talk about that, because for a lot of people listening to this, they're going to wonder, well, how do we use that? So give us some real life insights into your clientele, because you already mentioned those Christmas cards and it shows that you make a positive influence in their lives. Talk to us about some of those examples as to where this works out for them.
Okay. I'm going to talk to myself, and then I'm going to talk to my clientele, because I was referring back to myself. So I had a business. I was brokering. I didn't used to lend. I used to only broker. And that was a services business. And that gave me a lot of cash. And I couldn't reinvest all that into the business, which was frustrating. That I'll speak to this a little bit more later. It was frustrating, because I had excess cash and I was always looking for something to do with it. So that's where I started investing in real estate. I would go to the bank. I'll say it. I would get a property valued before I'd even make an offer on it. I'd see if there was equity in it to be made. Say if a property was $2.5 million and it was valued at $3 million, I'd buy it straight away. I put the $500,000 deposit down on it, and then I would pull the equity out, the $500,000 equity out 2 weeks later. That's what I did with leverage, and then I'd buy another property and buy another property and buy another property, and some were negatively geared. And some were positively geared, and I'll rephrase that for American viewers. Some were positive cash flow, some were negative cash flow, and obviously there's tax advantages. Now, I was making a lot of money in my core business, like $4, $5, $6, $7 million a year, so I could afford to have negative cash flow properties. Now, in terms of where that got me. It got me to a property portfolio of about 11 properties in Australia, which is pretty good for Australia. Australia's got very expensive real estate. And I was heavily leveraged, good cash flow, and it was a good scenario. If I held it out for 10 years, my equity in that property would have gone from like 4 or 5 million to 15 million. But that wasn't for me. In terms of my customers, we just get so many people with great businesses that need cash straight away. So, I get guys every day that haven't paid their wages, or and they're waiting on a delayed invoice, and they're talking to the bank, and the bank needs 10 million documents, and they've got a two-week turnaround time just until they call you, and they apply through my business, and then straight away, we're able to get them funding within like half an hour, because it's all automated and the approval's automated. Then the stress is off their back. They've got usually 12 months to pay it back. And I think that means a lot to a business owner, a lot, particularly with the economy being so bad. Like last year, I got every year actually since I've started doing unsecured business loans, I get 20 or 30 Christmas cards. Thank you for helping me in this situation. I can't even remember, because I'm doing so much every day. One time I got a hamper and they sent it up to my holiday house in just above Newcastle in Australia, and I didn't go to the holiday house for 3 months, and I could see I was watching the hamper on the camera for about 3 months. So yeah, it's all sorts of different scenarios.
Yeah, I love that. And Andrew, it's so clear that it not only brings joy to your clients, but I love that they pass that on and you are at the top of their Christmas list. I want to transition a little bit and talk to you, the entrepreneur. And these episodes, it's fun for us to talk about you as the subject matter expert, but you're also one of us. You are a fellow entrepreneur. And one thing you brought up earlier in our conversation is spirituality. Obviously, personal development, it's so clear to me. Personal growth is such a key thing for you. Talk to us about those ways that you continue to grow, because a lot of people will think, well, Andrew, you've got a successful business that's thriving, that's attracting new clients. Obviously, sales and marketing is one of your fortes, but how do you continue to invest in that personal growth along the way?
Look, my personal growth, I'm working on it now. Like, my business is going like that, but I need my personal to go like that. I'm working on myself personally. I'm always working on building new relationships with people, building authentic relationships. You can never stop personally developing yourself. The moment you stop is the moment you go backwards. It's like the moment you stop fighting in your business, that's when you start to lose money. In terms of business, what I'm teaching myself at the moment is mindset. So not letting those self-doubt thoughts go into my head at all. And it works.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Just complete flick. So nothing... No self-doubt can come in. And that's what I've been training myself to do. And it's starting to work. And when you learn about mindset in business and flicking thoughts of self-doubt out so they can't seep into your brain, I think you'll see your business will start to go like that. Like, I'm seeing that right now in my business.
Yes. Well, then, Andrew, on behalf of every single listener to this episode, I've got to ask you, how are you training yourself in that regard? Because that's something that plagues all of us. We all experience those self-doubts. So tell us about that training.
Yeah, it's going back a step and providing myself with comfort. Even if I lose all my money or I screw this up, I'm still here. I'm still me. I'm still healthy. Health is a big thing. You as long as you're healthy, you're right. You can always rebuild. Discovering that. And then, I've got a mentor now who's doing a lot of coaching with me. He's a very, very successful guy. And he's just taught me, he said, when I was 25, my life was a mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I was depressed. I had addiction issues too. But as soon as I learned mindset, I was unstoppable.
Yes, I love that. Unstoppable. It's a really powerful word, especially knowing what you're doing in the world of business. I think that it's really relevant to you. I want to ask you about lifestyle, though, because you and I were talking off air about being a digital nomad, and obviously that's an appealing lifestyle for so many people around the world. Talk to us about how you structure that. Andrew, I've always personally wondered how you decide where you're going, when you're going, for how long. Give us some insights there.
Well, I'm fortunate. I've got a lot of international contacts. So, I sort of book a few meetings and then, enjoy the scenery while I'm doing those meetings. So, being a digital nomad is interesting. It's definitely challenging. I got stuck in Australia last year, so I promised myself everything I spent on property investing or whatever, all my salary is going into being a digital nomad. I'm going to travel the world for the next year. And that's what I've done this year. I get bogged down in work. I'm sort of using Manila in the Philippines as a base because I've got 30 staff here. And, then I'm just, okay, I'll give you an example. I have one guy who's invited me to go to a Greek island. So I've just booked that in 2 weeks. I'm just flying to London, then flying to this island in Greece. It's just, you just sort of, everyone who hints at like an opportunity, which we all get it. We all have friends that are overseas, come here, come there, come here. I just go now, but I act on it straight away. So it's a good life. I recommend it for a year or two. Sometimes it's a little frustrating. You're like, I wish I was settled in a house and all that type of thing. But, it's a good challenge, and it's definitely been really good for my personal development, for sure.
Yeah, so this is your year of saying yes. Anyone who invites you on a trip, you're there, aren't you?
I'm there, yeah.
I love it. Hey, it also comes with the side benefit of a lot of airline miles that you pick up along the way. So more power to you, Andrew.
I just got Platinum 1. I've only been going for 7 months, and I'm already at Platinum 1. So that's the top tier. I need a private jet. Let's get, that's
I
what
love
I
that.
need now. Yeah.
Sign me up for the Spira private jet. I'm right there with you. But I also find when I do get to talk to digital nomads like you, I realize that you need obviously good systems, good processes, good tools, and of course a good team behind you to support all of that. Give us some insights into some of your favorite tools, business-wise or also life-wise, because you have to be organized in so many different ways.
Look, I'm even though I'm traveling, I'm extremely rigid with my routine. I'm going to bed at the same time every night. I'm getting up at the same time. I'm having the same routine with my laptop, with my phone, with my calls. Everything is, even though I'm traveling like this and it looks all fun, there's still a lot of rigidity when you're running, particularly a business with investors and thousands of clients that are, taking loans from you. It can get a little chaotic. So, I've got a good team. I've still got to monitor them quite heavily, just because of the nature of the business. And yeah, the systems, again, it's not overcomplicating it. It's trust, first of all. And then second of all, it's good communication. And I think with those two things, I don't think you need to have, these, remote viewer access into your staff's computer or be micromanaging them. You can just sit back and let them do their job while you do your job.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And obviously in today's world, there's more and more global teams. So managing that and creating a great environment for them, I think it's super important, which is how we keep our teams. So Andrew, as we come towards the end, I don't want to let you go just yet because knowing that you were coming on here today, I had to pick your brain about philanthropy because I think it's so cool that part of what you're doing is giving back. You've gone through so many hardships yourself. And one of our founding principles here at the show is a rising tide lifts all boats. And it's something that you embody in the work that you do. Talk to us about the philanthropy efforts.
Yeah, so I always thought, I lost all my wealth and rebuilt myself. And I always thought if I do rebuild myself, I'm going to give a lot back because, there's nothing I really want to buy anymore. Like I've already got a couple of properties that I own outright and I can go back to them at any time. And I'm not really I've got one watch now. I used to have a lot more. I'm not really into watches or cars or owning anything anymore. I like minimalism. So I always thought I'm going to put some money back into philanthropy, which I've done. I've started my own charity, which is, well, not charity, it's non-for-profit, I would call it, which is just giving back to people with addictions and people that lack basic life skills. Again, people overcomplicate what we actually need, what recovering addicts need, what people that are struggling with basic life skills basically need. And it all goes back to food, water, shelter. And that's what I help people. I help people get a job, get a rental property, get into a routine, build healthy relationships. And then the rest is history. Doors just open up for you. So, I've got a business now. It's named after me, Andrew Spira.me. We've got 350 people signed up. They've all got direct access to me. Don't worry, not everyone's coming through to my work phone. Otherwise, I'd be getting like 1,000 calls a day. But I've got a phone for that business, and I'm helping some guys at the moment in Northern Territory. This is a story I'll point to in particular, and they just got out of jail. Just released back into the community. No money, no nothing. I've helped them get into crisis accommodation. I've helped them start applying for labouring jobs. These guys are quite, big guys. And I've, showed them where to apply for rentals or how to get a share house. It's just basic life skills, which I'm teaching people. I'm doing a weekly mail out with how I'm going on my recovery journey. And I'm, regularly checking in with, I'm a bit ADD, like we all are. I'm regularly checking in with like 10 to 15 people, and then the next week it'll go to another 10 to 15 people. It's sort of like bouncing around people and, keeping them up to date with my recovery journey, giving some basic pointers. And, the big focus for that is not curing the trauma, just giving people basic life skills so then they can go on to cure the trauma, because you can't cure the trauma while you're still in that same environment, which a lot of these people, a lot of people can't start businesses like us. A lot of people can't even get jobs. They don't even know how to get off government welfare. And I think that's the first step to curing trauma for a lot of people.
Yeah, giving them that foundation. And Andrew, I'm going to publicly give you kudos and props and really appreciate the work that you're doing there. But even above and beyond that, one thing that really stands out to me about you is leading by example. I think that you're uniquely positioned to be that helping and that guiding force. So huge kudos to you for taking action there, because I know you've got a lot on your plate. So adding to it to give back is really awesome to see for all of us. I think it inspires all of us to be more active in giving back to people who we know that we can help. So Andrew, with all of that in mind, you've been a wealth of knowledge here today, but the last question that I always ask guests on these episodes, it's a super broad one, so you can take it in any direction that you want, and that is your one best piece of advice. Knowing that our listeners are entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their business journey, what's that one thing that if you can impart, you've got a direct line to all of them around the world right now, what's that one takeaway that you want to leave them with?
Never give up and keep fighting. I'm sure you've heard that before, but that is one thing. If I gave up, I was speaking to someone about it. He actually ended up investing in my company. I called him every day, 3 times a day until I got the investment. Every day. And I go, what do you think? And he goes, sometimes I don't like you, but it's the best thing I've ever seen, your follow-ups. and I go, I'm not going to say his name. Starts with an M. I go, mate, you know what happens to guys like me if we give up? We end up on the street. Like I've been speaking to my parents in years, and if I give up, I end up on the street. So, that's why I'm so persistent. And, I could hear the, light bulb. He's like, wow, you're impressive. So you just never give up, keep fighting. And the world's not that cruel. People get into bad situations. I genuinely believe God is real, and people get into bad situations by generally recklessness. Sometimes few people are unlucky, but recklessness in life will get you into bad situations. If you're putting good things out there, life's not that cruel, and good things will happen to you. That's what I genuinely believe.
Yes, I love those words of wisdom from you here today to wrap up this session. It's been so much fun. You're such an inspiration. I know that listeners are going to be keen to learn more, especially about all the incredible topics that you're talking about with regards to access to cash, that those micro lending opportunities to bridge that gap between where we are and where we want to be with resources. So Andrew, as far as your links, your business, you've already dropped a link for your nonprofit, but will ask you to drop that link again for us. So drop the links. Where should listeners go from here?
My non-for-profit is andrewspira.me, and I encourage everyone to go and have a look. If you want me to speak up, a few people have asked me to speak at events, which I'm open to. And if you just want to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, feel free as well. And in terms of my business, you can have a look at pineapplefunding.com.au.
Yes, listeners, you already know the drill. We are making it as easy as possible for you to find all of Andrew's links to his businesses, as well as to his nonprofit, as well as a link to his personal LinkedIn. If you want to reach out to him, connect to him, you heard it there. This is someone who's all over the world, probably in a city near you, as long as someone invites him. So if you want to have him speak at an event or any of these other opportunities, it's always awesome to have great and impactful entrepreneurs in your network. So wherever it is that you're tuning into today's episode, check the show notes. You'll find all those links that you can click right on through to. So Andrew, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.